You name it, we've lived it.
And are living it.
Brits moving from the UK all the way to Australia with not a pot to piss in.
A whirlwind romance sparkled on Tinder.
3 months in, pregnant, starting 2 now successful businesses through COVID.
To another 2 new businesses post-COVID, whilst juggling 2 young, spirited children.
Living worldwide, travelling and pure hustle. We are nothing short of batshit crazy, but motivated as fuck. We are here to tell you our story,
inspire,
teach,
and probably scare the crap out of you.
Uncut, raw and real. Welcome to Business, Babies and Banter
with Henry
and Jade. Welcome to episode 3, Tinder. It's all in the swipe. I'm Jade.
And I'm Henry.
So, yeah, we're going to be going into a little bit about how we met today.
The online love story.
The online love story. So, yeah, when we first met, we were in really different places. And ironically, obviously, we came to Australia completely separately, right? But both being from England and managed to meet each other on good old Tinder.
I think that's what most people find funny when they meet us, is they're like, so you came here together? And then they realise they didn't. So obviously we both came to Australia on different paths and we met over here. And the ironic thing was, I came to Australia thinking, Australian girls and all the variety, and then ended up with an English chick. Not that I'm regretting it, but that's where we ended up. And I think Jade went through a similar sort of journey,
I definitely
trying the different spices of life, and then you wanted an English guy. True.
This is, it's semi-true. So I think, where I was at before I met Henry was I'd had a couple of really shitty relationships. So it was like interims of years with someone and then years without. And then I'm like, right, I'm moving back to England. That's it. I'm going back to England. I don't want to be here anymore. And then I met another boyfriend, a few more years, and then had that year break. And so I actually believe I manifested you, Henry, because I actually said to a friend, I believe it was Jordana, and I said, the next person I meet, if I meet anyone, because I'm so done with men, has to be English, has to be the same age, same vibe, and it has to be like my best friend. Otherwise, I'm just totally not interested. And so I wasn't actively on Tinder. We'll get on to Henry in a minute because he definitely was. But basically, I'd been single for ages. I wasn't going on dates, doing anything. And all my mates were like, just go on it, just get some free dinners, And I was like, I really don't want free dinners. It just cringes me out, the whole concept. And they're like, no, just do it. And so I went through a stage of, they'd all swipe these weirdos, and then these weirdos would be messaging me. But on the off chance, Henry came up, and he did look like a bit of a gym beast and I was like, oh, looks like a bit of a wanker, this one. I'm not sure. But anyway, we got chatting. And it was fun, wasn't it? The communications. It was a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, I was like, English girl, smokes cigarettes, obviously likes to party. I'm like, this is a good time.
This is a good time. But I did make him wait. So he was literally, coming out. I'll say the line because it's just hilarious. But he came out with this one about 2 weeks into our chatting. What are you up to tonight? I've got my jacuzzi in my apartment building and it's ready for you or something. And I was like, nah, mate, I'm really tired. I'm just going to go home after work. And he was like, oh no, the jacuzzi's actually broken anyway.
All I remember is you kept trying to do was like, come out with me and my friends. I was like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out with a group of your gay friends to a gay club to meet you for the first time. What's the point? So I felt I was almost at the point of ready to let it go. And I think she sensed that. And that's when she realised she had to stay her off.
You're full of shit. You've never said that to me. In the whole 6 years we've been together, he's never said, I think he was about to go out. No, I invited him out once, just to be clear, to a party at a place called Paul & Co, which many people in Melbourne know is like a club. And it was just innocent. It was like, hey, I'm going here, but that didn't work out. And so we actually had a conversation, if you remember, and it went on for an hour. And that's when I was like, wow, I actually think we really get on. So this was before we'd met still. And I was driving and it was an hour drive and we spoke the entire time. Do you remember? Spoke about everything. Politics, England, Australia, laughed. And then when I got to my destination, I was like, I've got to go now. Like we literally just spoke for the whole hour and even you were a bit surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening for about 50 minutes of that hour. And to ramble on, but yeah, it was a good conversation. I'm a good listener, and I think that's what you like.
No, it was back and forth, you twat. So yeah, first meeting, right? So I'd been to the gym. I've always been into the gym. I was super into the gym because obviously I was single, living my best life. And I'd actually just quit my job. So I think my last day I was chatting to Henry. And so I quit my job with the intention that I was like, I'm going to start a company for mobile hair and makeup. And it's going to be amazing. And I'm just going to wing it. And it's going to be no stress at all. Because I'm a really hard worker and I really believe in myself. So it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to the gym and I'm like, right, we're finally going to meet. And Henry had said, you know, come over to mine. I've got this amazing sunset view, which he did in South Bank, didn't you?
Yeah.
And anyway, I got back from the gym. I had a bottle of Verve in the fridge because it's always polite to bring something, of course, when you go to someone's house. But I got back from the gym. I was sweaty. I ended up doing a later class. I had a big spot in the middle of my face and I had to wash my hair. It was like beyond salvageable. And I was like, I'm just not going to go to my housemate. I was like, I'm done. It's fine. I'm not even that bothered. And he was actually one of the reasons that we ended up meeting because he was like, you've been chatting about this bloke for like 4 weeks now. You obviously really like each other. Why would you cancel? And I was like, nah. I was like, it's just too risky and I'm a mess. And anyway, he forced me to go. So I rolled up to this one's house with like semi-wet curled hair, obviously nice makeup. But yeah, I obviously didn't make a huge effort because I was in a big rush. And I remember pressing the button and being like, oh my God, what am I doing here? What if he's a total weirdo? And then I got to the front door and what happened, Henry? Don't pretend you don't know.
Well, you obviously were like, oh yeah, I bought this.
The Verve.
What else?
So yeah, I opened the door and I was like, hey. And he was like, hi, all jittery. And I said, he goes, why have you bought that? And I was like, because it's polite to bring something when you go around someone's house for the first time. And he was like, I literally bought exactly the same thing. So he'd also bought a bottle of Verve that he had in the fridge. Obviously we hit it off immediately, drank both bottles, reordered.
We ordered a bottle of gin at like 2 a.m, didn't we?
And then, so we chatting, we watched the sunset. It was really nice, to be fair. And it was very evident that we were up for a party. Do you know what I mean? It was like, wow, yeah, just chatting and having the best time. And then at about 2 o'clock in the morning, Henry's like, yeah, so I actually get up for work at 5. And I was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I said I can leave. He's like, well, you can stay if you like. So yeah, we had like 3 hours sleep, didn't we?
Yeah.
And 3 hours sleep. And then, yeah, the next day I was like, oh my God, all excited. Obviously, we were super hungover. And we had one day apart. One day because we were just hungover as hell. And then the following night, you were like, hey, what are you up to? And I was like, nothing. What are you up to? And you said, you know, do you want to hang out? Maybe we could go grab some dinner. This is where and Henry got food poisoning. Go on, tell the story.
So we went, I've never eaten there since. Went to Hunky Dory, which is like a supposedly a healthy fish and chip shop with fish and salads. And I was, you know, in my protein days, I was trying to get as much protein in as possible. So I got my usual plus a chicken skewer, and the chicken skewer obviously sent me sideways. So at that night, when obviously I started going under and I was vomiting into the kitchen sink and shitting through the eye of a needle, basically. And Jade was in the other room, and I was in a 1-bedroom sort of penthousey apartment where the bathroom's connected to the bedroom.
To everything. So there's the lounge, the bathroom, the bedroom, and there's just a sliding door separating. So I could literally hear everything. And this poor bastard. And when you came out, you were like, I thought you would have left. I was like, no, it's okay. I'll go and get you some Hydrolite.
He actually cleaned the sick out of the sink as well, because it wouldn't go down the sink.
It was all like lumps.
So that's when I knew that. That's when I knew that you were a keeper. You were willing to get your hands dirty for the greater good.
No, you were really sweet. Actually, he was like, "Why are you still here helping me?" I was like, "Because you're all really poorly." Like, it was so bad, the food poisoning. To be fair, like it was like both ends, hectic. And then after that, we literally never left each other. So prior to this, Henry had been a bit of a ladies' man. Go into that a bit more, Henry. Tell the truth. Where were you at? I've obviously spoke about mine hard.
Well, it's hard to say, really. No,
I know the truth.
No, look, you know, being a young bachelor living in Melbourne
That's a total hottie.
with lots of time on his hands, and at this time I didn't have children, didn't have a business. There was nothing really that was pressing, and time was of the essence to just get around it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, like we just connected so well, and we literally, weren't we? We were living our best lives. So like at the time, I had a BMW red leather convertible, right? And I said to him, I was like, you can drive sometimes, I don't really care. At the time, he was driving around this rented banger just because it was cheap and he was in construction and he didn't care. So he's like cruising down around Melbourne in the summer because we met in October, beautiful weather with the roof off. You know, we'd like spontaneously go to Revs at like 3 a.m. because we were like, we're up and why not? Let's just go. We were going to the best restaurants. We had all these plans. They're like, he's like, I'm going to take you to Ibiza for your birthday in July. We're going to travel the world. You know,
loads of money, loads of time, loads of freedom.
He's like, your business is going to be amazing. Don't worry. And he, you know, had all this input for me, helped me create the name. I was like, you know, privé, it's French. It means private, one-on-one services. It was just honestly a dream. Like every day I woke up and I kept my flat, but I was just never there. And I was basically just fucking staying at yours. And we were just so happy. Like there was literally not a worry in the world. Wasn't it? Life was so easy, joyful. It was probably at that time the happiest that I'd been in my whole life. Like I just woke up every day feeling inspired and overjoyed is the only way that I can describe it. And so, you know, we were living our best lives, and then something happened. What happened, Henry?
You forgot to take your morning after pill.
No, that's a total...
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
No.
Tell me the truth. Did you take it the next day like you said you would?
I took it 36 hours after.
You took it the day after?
No, 36 hours after, because it was pretty late that the inception occurred. Anyway, 3 months in, I get pregnant. I've never been pregnant in my life. I didn't know. Something happened. I'm sure you all know. And it was very late in the night. And so the very next morning, I didn't take it, but I took it the late afternoon. So it ended up being within the time frame anyway. So
following day. Following day.
But anyway, this is the point. You go to the pharmacy, right? And they're like, yep, so you got 72 hours. You're well within that. If you have vomiting or diarrhea, please let us know, because then it could obviously not work. But yeah, take this. So we were together when I took it. We actually went to a coffee shop in Port Melbourne, remember? So I took it. That's it. Job done. No worries. And yeah, and then fast forward, obviously a few weeks, I did have weird pains, and I just thought it was my period because I was due on my period, and I was like, really sharp stabbing pains, which I actually now know is like the embedding, right? Because we did all the research. And Henry's like, are you okay? Like, really? And I was like, yeah, I've just got these really sharp pains. And then do you remember when I lost my shit about the charging cable? So he'd taken my charging cable out of my car, and I needed to use my car, and I needed my charger. And as I said, things were so dandy with us. Like, we were so happy. And I literally walked upstairs, threw the charger at him or something, and then stormed out. And he was like, are you okay? Like, obviously it was hormones, but I didn't know. And then there was another time when you bought new bed sheets and you made the bed, and I started crying. Do you remember?
That's an emotional mess. You still are an emotional mess sometimes.
Not that hectic though, not that hectic. And I was like, oh my God, you're so nice to me. I'm really sorry. Yeah, it was the most random thing. So then I'm at this business conference, and I'm building my business, and I'm living my best young life, my new entrepreneur life. And I'm there, and there's this chick there, and my boobs were really sore. I actually sent you a picture of my boobs, didn't I? I did. And he was like, they're massive. Are you sure you're not pregnant?
I said it as a joke.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. And I was a couple of days late on my period. And then so I said to this chick there, I was like, look, I don't think I am, because I took the morning after pill, but I just have to tell someone because I'm now starting to get a little bit stressed. Is there any chance? And she went, absolutely no chance. I've taken it loads when I was younger. Don't worry at all. It messes up your cycle. It messes up your hormones. You're totally fine. So I was like, oh, thank God for that. So then I'm going back to my Airbnb because the conference was in the Gold Coast. And I went to Woolworths because I needed some face cream because I hadn't bought half the stuff that I needed because we actually went out drinking the night before, of course, and I had next to no sleep because that's what we used to do. And I saw it was half price on First Response. You remember the story? So then I get one and I'm not even going to tell him I'm buying it because it's obviously going to be negative. So I'm in the room, do the test, call Henry. Hi, Hen, how was your day? Yeah, the conference is amazing. I walk past the bathroom and it's positive, like it's on the side of the bathroom side. And I start stopping to breathe. Do you remember that experience? What were your thoughts when in that moment? Like I'm literally can't talk for 2 minutes.
I thought you were having a heart stop or something. Yeah, I didn't know.
You thought I was going to die and you didn't know where I was staying.
I was like, you weren't responding. It was like you're having a stroke or something. Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, it was the biggest shock of my entire life, to say the least. Not what I wanted, obviously not what he wanted. And so, yeah, and then I finally got it out. Do you remember? And I was like, I'm pregnant. And you were like, fucking hell, I actually thought you were dying. Like, he almost sounded relieved because he just didn't know what was going on. And, in this time, Henry's opinion was, don't stress. We're not even going to talk about it. He was very level-headed in classic Henry style, weren't you, to be fair?
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I didn't think that we would have the child, so therefore I wasn't stressing.
So in Henry's mind, he was like, well, there's only one option, obviously. We're just going to, terminate. And so it's not that I wasn't thinking that, but being a woman, having not gone through it, I was 27 at the time. I don't know. I was just like, I just don't know. I was like, I'm definitely not going to have it, but I'm also not going to terminate. I was like, I'll probably just have a miscarriage or something.
Female logic.
Yeah. Well, you haven't been through it. Anyway, so I'm on the phone to Henry. He's like, look, don't worry, don't stress. Call my best friend. And I'm like, oh my God, this has happened. Like my whole life is over. And ironically, I walked into the business coaching conference the next day very early because I obviously couldn't sleep all night. We had all these crazy tasks to do and I hadn't completed any because of the obvious thing. And I said to him, I said, Billy, I'm going to be honest, I haven't done any tasks. He goes, you better have a really good reason, Jade, because you know how important this is. And I was like, what kind of do? I found out I'm pregnant. And he went, that's incredible. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And I was like, I don't know if I'm happy. And he goes, you know what? When you hold that little baby in your arms for the first time, there will not be an inch of you that regrets that moment and what's happened. And it's a sheer miracle. And he had 2 children. I was like, wow, this is a lot. So we're going back from the Gold Coast. We have a massive row. I finished my conference. Yeah, but remember, because I was on the way back to the airport and Henry's like, don't worry, we'll have a few glasses of wine and maybe a joint when you get back. And I was like, maybe that isn't the best idea. And he was like, why? I said, because we don't know what we're going to do. And he was like, what do you mean we don't know what you're going to do? You're not going to keep it. I was like, I just don't know. I just don't know. So then what happened to you? You went into Hulk smash mode, didn't you really?
Oh, yes. That's a story for another time. But yeah, definitely it was one of the moments of where you're not sure what's going to happen next and you're not in control because you're not in control. You were the one in control. I wasn't in control. So I felt very vulnerable in the sense that it was a decision that I didn't make, but then ultimately the decision was out of my hands at the same time.
Yeah, it was honestly awful. Like I remember going to sleep that night. So basically he had lost it and was like, no, you're not going to do this to me. I don't want to have a baby. This isn't fair. And I was like, I'm not saying we are having one, but I don't know. And I think you said then, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to pick you up from the airport. And so I messaged my friend. I was like, he's not going to pick me up. I don't know what to do. And I was just like, I've literally met the man of my dreams and we are so happy and so in love. But I now have to choose between making a massive life-changing decision or losing him forever. And I feel like either way I can't win. It was honestly one of the worst things in that moment that I've ever been through, because it was so permanent and confronting. And then you turned it around though, didn't you, Hennes? He did turn it around. He was like, I'm going to get you from the airport. Let's talk about this. And then in another series of events, we then talked about it, and he was like, you know, if you're going to keep it, that's fine, but I think I'll probably just have to walk away. And I obviously burst into tears. He's really stressed and emotional, and I walked out.
We were in no position to have a child at the time.
Okay.
So that's why I'm trying to put my foot down.
Yeah.
So we were financially, not you especially financially, were in the biggest mess ever, which I was trying to get you out of, and didn't have a real job. And of course, I was very happy with how my life was going, you know, and how I was.
And we were so
happy.
happy.
So the idea of things getting serious and becoming, you know, being a parent and having to look after a child and taking on that and making it really, really concrete wasn't something that I wanted to do then. It was something that I'd always wanted to do in the future. Always wanted to be a father, love kids, feel like I'm great with them.
And we had spoke about it.
We had spoke about it, but it wasn't the time, and I think planning it is there. But everyone always says, there's never a right time to have a child, but you never regret when you do. So a lot of the people that we were speaking to were like, you won't regret it.
Tell them what your dad said.
Well, I think ultimately the
when I walked out, so that's when it happened.
Well, I think ultimately the decision was made for me whether we stay together or we don't, I'm going to have a child, and a child's an amazing thing. So I was prepared to give it a go, knowing that ultimately a child is fantastic, and either I'm going to be the father for it or someone else would be the father for it, you know. And it's a bit of a crazy or a serious thing to do, but ultimately that's what happens. You look at couples now when they get divorced and then they move on, and someone else is bringing up your kids. And you know, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and there's no fucking way anyone else is bringing up my kids. They die first, but no. Anyway, so yeah, that was ultimately my decision, which was okay. Well, look, we'll give it a go, and if worst case scenario it doesn't work out, at least you have a fantastic child from that. And at best case scenario, it does work. And, you know, it's just how the universe was put us in. And I think ultimately, the next episode's going to cover this, but ultimately, this was the catalyst for everything else that happened next. So we looked at it at the time of, this is a fucking disaster. What the fuck's happening to our life? But actually, without it, we wouldn't have had the forward momentum and the sense of urgency to do what we did.
Yeah, 100%. And like, just for perspective here, because I'm a real believer in, you know, the universe and signs. You know, when I went to the hospital, because I did have to, of course, get checked out, I had to have a full, you know, internal examination because I had taken the morning after pill, and they needed to check that it wasn't going to be an ectopic pregnancy or anything. And they were like, no, everything's fine, you know, all looking really well. There's nothing to worry about. And I said to them, like, in tears, I was with my best friend at the time in the hospital. I was like, I took the pill, and you know, I don't understand, this isn't supposed to happen. They were like, yeah, there's a 4% chance, and you're just in that 4%. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, my God, if that really is the statistics, and for some miracle I've met this amazing person that I'm super in love with, and we're so happy, and this little human has forged his way into the world, maybe it's just meant to be. Like, maybe denying this like controversial series of events is just so against what the universe doesn't intend. And so, you know, Henry was incredible. Like, I know it was awful for both of us, right? But he did turn it around, and we cried a lot. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, it was like, oh my God,
it's like the panic and fear of the unknown and not knowing whether or not you can be able to do it.
100%.
It's pretty fucking easy, wasn't it, when it happened?
Well, look, I think once we got our heads around it, we started to embrace it. And actually, like Henry said, the life changes and the things that we had to get, you know, I had this business and I was just going to wing it. And one of the conversations that we had was, you know, a couple of weeks in, Henry was like, look, you know, I was in a lot of debt at the time. $75,000, just to be clear. I just spent it helping other people, going back to England, just, you know, honestly, I spent tens of thousands on doing things that I shouldn't have done. and helping people. I did help a lot of people, mate. Anyway. And Henry was like, you got to get a job. And I was like, okay. But at the time, it would have been conflicting for my vision of Privé, which we're going to get all into in the next episode. But I couldn't go back to a salon because it would have been conflicting for my business, which I was actively promoting and, you know, really leaning into as much as possible. And so I basically applied. Do you remember how awful it was? Wasn't it, on Seek? And so we'd sit up in his apartment and I'd apply online for like personal assistant and executive assistant, or, you know, all these receptionists at nice places, and they didn't get back to me. And it's because on paper, I was just seen as a hairdresser, when actually I had, you know, years and years under my belt of like managing salons and really good communicating and exceeding KPIs and brilliant communicator, like all the things. Like, it's actually a really hard thing to do, be a high level hairdresser. And I was just seen as a nobody. And so I ended up going, you know, very early pregnancy, maybe 6 weeks. And I ended up working at Good Life as a customer service manager. But I actually applied to be a receptionist for like $23 an hour. But when I got there and I was like, I just need to do something. I'm just going to do whatever, just something to bring in consistent money, right? Because you were making good money in construction. And I went in and they were like, you're actually really good at communicating and you obviously have a lot of experience. Do you want to be the customer service manager? So it's marginally more. It definitely wasn't my life goal. Remember how hard it was. But yeah, I had to go back and get a job, and we had to like press the reset button.
So I'd drop you off at 5 a.m. We'd start your early shifts were 5 a.m. till midday. And so I'd drop you off at 5 and then I'd be on site for 6. So at that time, it was like panic stations, saving as much money as possible, knowing that we had to get a proper house. We were going to have to do all these sorts of things and prepare. You know, a convertible 2-door BMW wasn't suitable for a baby. So yeah, we're going to have to get a new car. So all of these sorts of things, like my left brain, I was very much like, right, this is what we're going to have to plan for and prep for. So it was, you know, getting sure that we had the war chest ready for when it happened, which obviously once it did happen, you weren't going to be able to work as much. And there was no guarantee the business was going to be a success straight away, which ironically, it wasn't able to because of COVID, which we didn't know was just around the corner.
Yeah, it was such an interesting time. But like ultimately, and this was our Hugo, by the way, like this baby that we're talking about is now our little Hugo, who is the most spirited, confident, you know, out there, like being that is just shining and glowing and is so sure of himself. Like I couldn't imagine life without this person being in the world. That makes me a bit emotional as that's there. But no, it was incredible. But actually the catalyst to our success was like, we had to get our shit together. We couldn't go out and have fun and not sleep and waste money on booze and go on all these like luxury holidays. We went to bed early. You were doing a fitness comp at the time. Yeah. So Henry was doing a fitness comp. We were eating well, sleeping early, you know, working hard. We just didn't have the same lifestyle. And so that, not knowing that COVID was coming, was the catalyst, because we had to get our chickens lined up. And I think it goes to show for anyone that's listening, that's thinking, you know, how do I really change my life or fast track what I need to do?
Not have a baby, by the way.
No, it's not. It's definitely not have a baby, Spark. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone in the early stages of business. But it's if you can make sacrifices and be so consistent with your habits and completely commit yourself to the outcome that you want and need, which we had to do it because we were having a baby, but those habits actually formulated all of our future success, because we had to radically and dramatically change our lives because we had no choice. So if you're able to do this without a baby, right, you actually can dramatically and radically change your life.
This is a saying that burn the boats. So there was a guy, I can't remember what his name was, but years ago, you know, when they would go to battle, when they would take the ships to battle and they'd land at the destination on the land they were going to conquer, they burned the boats. So his war speech, he burned the boats in front of the army, which was basically saying, we're not fucking going home, we're here to stay. So when you've got no other option, no plan B, your back's against the wall, you kind of have to pull things out. Now, it kind of then shows when you're in that situation what you're really made of. And it's really interesting with our team and with our employees. We know that when their back's against the wall, we know the ones that will actually be able to handle it and step up, and they've got that resilience, and we know the ones that will crumble. And it's the same in life. And I think the baby was that. The baby was putting us with our backs against the wall. We had the potential, we had the ideas, we had the ability to do things, and we were both coasting along. In reality, we were coasting through time and
winging it.
One of my biggest look backs now and regrets is how much time was actually wasted doing fuck all, and just plodding on by, having a good time, going out. I was making great money, but was I actually progressing and doing something that was going to be entrepreneurial or building my wealth or building my my skill sets and who I was as an individual? Not really. So, but I knew I was capable of it, and as did you. So it's interesting that we found ourselves in that position, and maybe it was just God saying, yes, you're trying to get rid of this thing, but this is the thing that you need the most right now.
No, it was honestly such a wild time. And as much as I miss those times, just because it was so short-lived, right? But it was the catalyst to our success. And he is just the most amazing child. And, on the next episode, we are going to be talking about the birth of Privé, which is now a nationwide company with over 100 staff members in 5 different cities. And then the birth of Hugo came shortly after. So thank you so much for listening today, guys. Stay tuned for episode 4 to find out all the juicy bits about how we actually founded and opened our business.
This will be the last emotional, cheesy, gay one for a while.
There's always going to be emotional cheese, guys. Ignore Henry. Thank you. We chat to you soon. Thanks for listening.
And hopefully laughing. Be sure to leave us a review. And if you're into the madness,
check out the links below to follow our day-to-day journey.
Stay tuned for the next episode.